Just a heads up, spoilers ahead! The story takes place in the fictional city of Falkenheim during the final days of Nazi Germany. We meet Jojo, a 10-year-old boy who has an imaginary version of Adolf Hitler as his best friend, but hilariously can't even tie his own shoes. He is a hardcore nationalist, totally brainwashed by the intense propaganda surrounding him and desperate to do his part for the war effort. Because of this, he joins the Jungvolk, the junior division of the Hitler Youth, along with his best friend Yorkie. They head off to a weekend camp run by the eccentric Captain Klenzendorf, his sidekick Freddie Finkel, and the comically unhinged Fraulein Rahm. The children are handed uniforms and daggers before diving into fun activities like throwing grenades and digging trenches. Well, the boys are anyway. The girls are mostly taught how to fix beds and get pregnant for the fatherland, highlighting the absurdly strict gender roles and indoctrination of the era. Jojo is great at burning books and reciting propaganda, but when it comes to actual fighting, he gets cold feet. This catches the eye of the older teens. To test his killer instinct, they hand him a rabbit and tell him to kill it. Jojo's hesitation shows that despite the bluster, his innocence remains intact. Jojo's heart pounds as he tries to adopt a tough exterior at the Hitler Youth Camp, but the cruel reality proves to be too much for his sensitive nature. He makes a desperate attempt to show mercy and release the captive rabbit, but one of the older boys snatches the animal away and kills it without a second thought. The boy turns, sneering and mocking Jojo in front of the entire group. They cruelly bestow upon him the humiliating nickname Jojo Rabbit, which sends a humiliated Jojo running into the woods in tears. It is here that his eccentric imaginary friend, an upbeat version of Adolf Hitler, pops up to offer bizarre comfort, insisting that rabbits are actually brave and sneaky survivors. Feeling pumped up, Jojo rushes back to camp determined to prove his worth. He steals a live grenade during a training session and hurls it across the field, but the throw is a disaster. The grenade hits a tree, bounces back, and explodes right at his feet. Jojo is knocked out cold, left with fuzzy, fragmented memories of being rushed to the hospital and his loving mother Rosie watching over his bedside. He eventually wakes up back home, only to find he now has a permanent limp and some pretty intense scars on his face. Rosie comforts him, reminding him that even though his dad is away and his sister Inge is gone, he still has her. Once he's back in uniform, Rosie takes him to the Jungvolk headquarters and gives Klenzendorf a piece of her mind and a knee to the groin for letting Jojo get hurt. She demands they keep Jojo involved, so they give him the job of putting up propaganda posters and delivering notices around town. One afternoon, Jojo sees his mother staring at a group of people who have been hanged in the town square. When he asks what they did, she simply says, what they could. Later, while home alone, Jojo hears a weird noise coming from his late sister's room. He finds a hidden seam in the wall, pries it open with his knife, and discovers a secret crawl space. To his absolute horror, Jojo discovers a teenage girl named Elsa Kor hiding in the walls of his home. Panicked, Jojo attempts to flee, but she quickly corners him at the front door, disarms him with his own knife, and reveals the dangerous truth. She is Jewish. Even more shocking, she lets him know that his own mother, Rosie, is the one secretly sheltering her. Elsa coldly explains that if Jojo decides to snitch, she will tell everyone he was an accomplice, which would result in both him and his mother being executed by the authorities. Shaken and terrified, Jojo retreats to his bedroom to brainstorm with his eccentric imaginary friend, Adolf Hitler. Determined to take control, Jojo decides to negotiate. He marches back to the attic armed with a kitchen knife and wearing a pot on his head for a helmet. Bravely demanding that she leave, Jojo's bravado fails instantly. Elsa easily disarms him once again and kicks him out of the room.
Imaginary Hitler suggests a new plan. Play it cool and make Elsa feel safe so she drops her guard. That evening, Jojo subtly mentions rats in the walls to his mother. Recognizing the hint, Rosie later sneaks into the attic to see Elsa, warning her to be extremely careful because she cannot put Elsa's life above her own son's safety. The next day, Jojo goes for a swim to rehab his recovering leg. He runs into Captain Klenzendorf and Finkel, who seem strangely terrified of his mother. Jojo asks the captain what he should do if he found a Jewish person, and Klenzendorf's answer is simple. Call the Gestapo. When Jojo asks how to actually spot one, Klenzendorf admits he has no idea, joking that someone should write a book about it. Jojo heads home and offers Elsa a deal. She can stay if she shares all her Jewish secrets so he can write an expose. Amused, Elsa decides to troll him, fabricating wild tales about how Jews are money-loving demons who sleep by hanging upside down from the ceiling like bats for a shift. When Jojo begins enthusiastically rambling about the supposed superiority of the Aryan race, Elsa completely loses her patience. She grabs him by the shoulders and makes it fiercely clear that there is nothing weak about her people, silencing his prejudices before retreating back to her hiding spot.
That night, Rosie is in particularly high spirits because the Allies are clearly winning the war. Jojo attempts to argue with his mother about being a traitor to the country, but she gently tells him to just eat his dinner. She refuses to eat herself, leading Jojo to suspect that she is secretly saving her own rations to keep Elsa alive. Wishing his father was there to keep her in line, Jojo expresses his frustration. To lift the heavy mood, Rosie puts on her husband's large coat and smudges ash on her face to act out a fake talk from the father. She then takes Jojo by the hands and makes him dance with her, bringing a beautiful moment of warmth and joy to their increasingly dark world. The following day, Jojo brings Elsa a blank notebook, asking her to draw a map of where Jews live so he can learn more about them. Taking the notebook, Elsa hands it back to him with a single clever sketch of his own head, bluntly telling him that is exactly where they live. Later, Jojo decides to try and be deliberately cruel to her. He composes and gives Elsa a forged, heartbreaking breakup letter from her fiancé, Nathan. The fake letter clearly wounds her deeply, and watching her cry makes Jojo feel instantly guilty for being such a jerk. Overcome with remorse and wanting to undo the pain he has caused, Jojo rushes to write a correction letter from Nathan, pretending that the first note was a mistake and declaring that Nathan still deeply loves her, trying desperately to restore her hope and make things right in a dark world. Later, Jojo and Rosie take a quiet walk by the river. Rosie reminisces about how the area used to be full of life, color, and romance, but Jojo dismisses her memories as simply being girly. She reminds him that children should be climbing trees, making mistakes, and dancing, rather than worrying about heavy politics and the war. On their way back, they witness a heartbreaking sight, a truck carrying miserable, defeated German soldiers, foreshadowing the collapse of their regime. Back at home, Elsa cheers Jojo up with more ridiculous and charming stories about her Jewish powers, and Jojo realizes he is starting to actually like her. Imaginary Hitler is not happy about this German brain being compromised by compassion. The next day, Jojo returns to headquarters, finding Klenzendorf and Finkel acting very close. When Jojo shares his Jewish research, they simply laugh. Klenzendorf instead gives Jojo a completely different mission, collecting scrap metal for the war effort while wearing a ridiculous homemade robot costume. Here is the expanded and atmospheric version of the scene, tailored to be exactly around 170 words to capture the tension and emotional depth of the narrative. While out in town, Jojo spots his mother handing out anti-Nazi flyers, secretly expressing her resistance. He also runs into his old friend Yorkie, who is now a full-blown soldier. Jojo confides that he has captured a Jewish girl, but Yorkie shrugs it off casually, mentioning he saw one in the woods himself and does not understand what the big deal is. Later, Jojo brings Elsa some colored pencils. He defensively reminds her that they cannot be friends because it is illegal, but Elsa astutely points out that he is not truly a Nazi at all. He is simply a lonely, confused kid who desperately wants to belong to a group to belong. Jojo softens and allows Elsa to take a bath and borrow some of Inge's clothes for the evening. But just as they are about to sit down for dinner, the Gestapo suddenly arrives, led by the intimidating Captain Diertz. Captain Klenzendorf and Finkel arrive right behind them with a flimsy, nervous excuse about a pamphlet to distract the officers. The Gestapo intensely tosses the house, turning everything upside down, while Jojo holds his breath. Elsa courageously walks out, pretending to be Jojo's deceased sister, Inge. When the officers demand identification, she hands over Inge's ID papers without a flinch. Captain Diertz and Klenzendorf look over the documents. Klenzendorf directly asks her for Inge's birthday, and after a tense pause, Elsa guesses correctly. He allows her to leave, but Diertz spots Jojo's Jewish research notebook on the table. The Gestapo officers laugh at the crude drawings, but Elsa is genuinely hurt when she discovers the dark section where Jojo had written down all the brutal ways her fiancé should die. After the officers finally leave, Elsa realizes she actually gave the wrong birthday for Inge, and that Klenzendorf intentionally ignored the error to save them both. Jojo tells Elsa she should just live as Inga since no one knows she's dead, but Elsa is too hurt to be his friend. Imaginary Hitler screams at Jojo to get his priorities straight. While out looking for food, Jojo sees a crowd in the square. He finds his mother Rosie hanging from the gallows. He collapses, sobbing and clinging to her shoes, even trying to tie the laces she always reminded him about. He goes home in a rage, blaming Elsa for his mom's death. He tries to stab her, but she stops him. He breaks down crying and Elsa comforts him. She tells him she always knew Rosie was in the resistance, and that his father is actually fighting for them too. With Rosie gone, Jojo has to scavenge for food in trash cans. The city is a wreck. He and Elsa settle into a routine, sharing meals and the fake letters Jojo keeps writing as Nathan. Chaos eventually erupts across the town as the Allied forces invade. A terrified Jojo runs into his friend Yorkie, who is now carrying a heavy rocket launcher because the retreating army has resorted to using children. Yorkie tells him the devastating news that Hitler has killed himself and the war is basically over.
Fräulein Rom rushes to put a Nazi jacket on Jojo so his own side does not accidentally shoot him before sending Yorkie off with a weapon. A massive bomb suddenly detonates, and Jojo watches the absolute carnage of children and elderly men forced into combat. Amidst the chaos, he even spots Klenzendorf and Finkel charging into the fray wearing fabulous custom-made avant-garde battle gear. Jojo takes cover, hiding in a ruined building until the dust finally settles. Through the rubble, he watches the Americans roll in to replace the Nazi flags with the stars and stripes, while Soviet soldiers begin rounding up everyone in uniform, including Jojo. He finds Klenzendorf among the prisoners. The captain tells Jojo he's a good boy and to look after his sister. He then rips off Jojo's jacket and spits on him, calling him a Jew so the soldiers will kick him out and let him live. Jojo watches as the captain is led away to be executed. Jojo heads home and finds Yorkie, who just wants to go home to his mom. Yorkie mentions that Elsa can finally be free, but Jojo is terrified of her leaving him. He goes home and lies to her saying Germany won the war. But after looking at his notebook and seeing a drawing of a rabbit in a cage, he realizes he can't keep her prisoner. He writes one last letter from Nathan saying there's a plan to sneak her out. Elsa finally admits Nathan actually died of TB a year ago, but she loved the letters anyway. Jojo tells her he loves her, and she tells him she loves him back. Like a brother. Imaginary Hitler tries to make one last stand, but Jojo finally stands up to him and kicks him out of the window. Jojo leads Elsa outside. She sees an American car drive by and realizes he lied. She slaps him, but then they both realize they're finally free. They look at each other, start a little beat, and just dance. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more recaps.